Today, we're diving into a single, really powerful idea that might just change the way you think about success, failure, and what it means to live a good life. It all comes down to the nature of regret, but with a twist you probably won't see coming.
So, let me just start by asking you a question. And I want you to really think about it for a second. At the end of it all, what do you think is the single biggest regret a person can have? What's the first thing that pops into your head? Now, if you thought about some kind of major failure or a risk that just didn't work out, you're not alone. That's what most of us would say. But the idea we're digging into today, it suggests that the most painful regret isn't about the things we tried and failed to do. It's something else entirely. Which brings us to our first part. What is this deeper, more important regret that we should be thinking about? Here it is. This is the core idea, and it totally flips our usual thinking upside down. The sting of failure? Yeah, it hurts, but it fades. But that nagging, haunting feeling that your dreams were just too small, that you never even tried to see what you were truly capable of, that's the regret that sticks with you. So this really gets to the heart of it, right? We spend so much time and energy trying to avoid the pain of failing. But while we're doing that, we completely ignore this other, much bigger risk, the regret of aiming too low. One is a scar from a battle you actually fought. The other, it's the quiet sadness of never even stepping into the arena. Okay, so if aiming too low is the real danger, why do so many of us fall for it? Well, that leads us right into our next section, the trap of small dreams. It's a huge question, isn't it? Why do we do that? Why do we put a ceiling on our own ambition, sometimes without even realizing it? What is it that keeps us playing it safe? Well, this framework points to three key enemies of ambition. The first one, a fear of failure. That's pretty obvious. But the other two, they're a little sneakier. There's that feeling of complacency, You get a few small wins and you start to think, hey, this is good enough. And then there's just the raw comfort of the easy road, of not having to face any real challenges.
Ultimately, this isn't about things happening to us. The real battle is internal. It's a fight against what you could call a fragile spirit, that little voice inside all of us that chooses safety over growth and comfort over courage every single time.
But here's the good news. We can absolutely strengthen that spirit. It just starts with a simple mental shift, which brings us to part 3, redefining your goals. I absolutely love this slide because it shows how much our perception matters. That huge, impossible dream you're thinking about right now, well, it only feels that way from where you're standing today. As you go out there, get more experience, and start stacking up some wins, its size starts to shrink. What felt impossible yesterday starts to just feel difficult. And eventually, that becomes your new normal.
And that's the whole point right there. Your potential is not some fixed, static thing you're born with. It expands as you do. The size of your dream today is really just a reflection of where you're at right now, not some hard limit on what you can ultimately achieve.
Okay, so we have the mindset. Now, how do we put it into practice? Let's talk about the actual path to great ambition in Section 4.
So this path is built on a really fantastic Japanese concept called kotsukotsu. It's not about big, flashy gestures or trying to become an overnight success. It's all about the power of steady, persistent little bits of effort that add up over a long, long time. It's that daily grind that turns an amateur into a pro.
So this whole philosophy really breaks down into 3 actionable pillars. First, you have to apply that kotsukotsu idea, that steady, daily effort. Second, you have to actively seek out and overcome serious challenges, not just little ones. And third, and this one is so important, you've got to have the spirit, the mental toughness to get knocked all the way down to 0 and still be willing to start all over again.
And what holds all of this together? It's really just one powerful commitment, and it's fueled by that big ambition we talked about. You simply decide not to give up easily. That persistence is the engine for everything else.
So let's bring this all home as we move into our final section, how to live a life without regret.
This quote just sums it all up perfectly, doesn't it? A great life, a successful one, it's not about avoiding failure. It's built on that consistent kotsukotsu effort and finding the courage inside yourself to face down real, serious challenges, not just once, but over and over again.
And that really brings us to the end. We've talked about why the biggest regret isn't failing, but aiming too small. So I'll leave you with this final thought to take with you. What is your great ambition? And more importantly, is it big enough?